Also, with Joe Klatt, which this is the next thing. Now it goes to the Lions and who he had the Lions taking in his mock draft. So he had the Detroit Lions taking at 29, staying put, of course, no trades because he ain't going to do that. He just does stays put. Ennis Rakestraw. Junior.
From Missouri?
Yes, from Missouri. He had him at 29. You know who went next? Kool-Aid McKinstry.
Ooh.
Joe Klatt, I don't know. And I'm not trying to question. He is a ball knower. I will give him that. He knows ball, college ball, knows it like the back of his hand. He loves college football. But I will hold on. And I'm not going to act like I'm the smartest man in the room. But here's why I really like Kool-Aid McKinstry. I do, and it's not just the Kool-Aid name with the obviously the Honolulu Blue Kool-Aid. I get all that. And Booner's like the Kool-Aid godfather, so obviously it all works out. Kool-Aid McKinstry. I sat today. I was sitting there. I was just watching. Like I was watching Joe Klatt. I watched him do his mock draft, and I sat there and watched some tape on Kool-Aid. Not just highlights. I know people watch highlights. Like I watched everything. Just
real
like
tape.
Yeah, just in general Kool-Aid out of Alabama. And I know we talk a lot about Alabama. Brad loves Alabama corners and just Alabama players in general, not corners, just players. Obviously, he's drafted some. Kool-Aid McKinstry, you look at what he did this year, man, he fits what the Lions are looking for. 6 foot, what is he, 6'1", about 200 pounds. He had, what do you have this year in terms of like forced incompletions? He had like a 10+ forced incompletions. He had a dropped interception. He's had a couple sacks in his career. He's played on special teams. And I know people would say, well, Jeff, he's not the best corner on his team. Yes, Arnold, widely regarded as the best corner. But in this draft, though, Arnold went in like the teens. So that's why I can't bring up Arnold because he's not available. It's really Rakestraw or McKinstry. But McKinstry, he played a lot of snaps in press coverage, and he has a good rating on PFF and man coverage. I watched. There was times where he looked out of position, like he got cooked a couple of times and got let off by a drop. So like there is some work there, but Lions love guys who can play special teams. He makes plays. He has a knack for the football. He's comfortable in zone coverage, but that's where the league's kind of heading anyway. It's a lot of zone coverage. So I like Kool-Aid McKinstry, guys. I'm a big fan of what he brings. And I think for even an Alabama defense who had some good players. Like, I don't know about Rakestraw. I don't know enough about him.
So just looking here, the Rakestraw thing, I'm just reading something quick on it. It says he hasn't allowed a touchdown in over 1,000 career coverage snaps. But on top of that as well, in his sophomore season, he did tear his ACL. And on top of that, in 2023, so this last season, he was battling through a groin injury. So he's an injury type of dude who has been through some injury situations. The draft I'm looking at has him going at 26. So just before the Detroit Lions, and this one actually has the Detroit Lions picking Kool-Aid McKinstry. I do get the kind of the thing though, Jeff, a little bit, just kind of play both sides here. If we are talking about how like Terrion Arnold, it was the best corner on that Alabama team. So I do get that to where it's like, hey, you really like, if you want Kool-Aid to come in and you're drafting a guy at 29, you want him to be your corner number one, and Kool-Aid probably can potentially be that, but he wasn't even the number one corner on his own football team, which that could just be like, hey, they just had two dudes. Like I think, like we know what Alabama is and what they've brought to the table. So
right.
It could be that. But you have to be smart about that. It's like you just have to be smart. If you're using a first round pick on a guy, especially at the corner position, you're hoping at least he can get to that corner one because you're probably, or you know what I mean? And it kind of affect the game in that way. Can Kool-Aid do that? Probably. So I don't hate it, but you just have to be, in my opinion, just be careful. You know what I mean? You have to play it smart. I'm sure Brad knows, like Brad's evaluated very, very well. So
yeah, he has. And of course,
I'm not going to question him.
Yeah. And in terms of evaluating talent, like I'm not going to like say, Brad, I trust me. But what I will say is with a guy like Rakestraw, and I just noticed the lower body injuries. Like you brought up the ACL. That's one thing that stood out to me. Like he is good, but there is some injury history like with Kool-Aid. And you compare Kool-Aid McKinstry to Arnold and look at them, and you're right. Like Arnold and Joe Klatt had him going in the teens, like I said. So in this scenario, he's off the board. I'm just talking about Rakestraw versus Kool-Aid McKinstry. When targeted, Kool-Aid allowed a completion percentage of 48.7%. Arnold allowed a completion percentage when targeted of 51.9%. So like it's not like significant.
Again though, like to me though, it's like they both play in the SEC. they're going up against different wide receivers because Kool-Aid has that number one on his team. So he's going up against the different guys than him.
And here's the thing
I do defer, and he's on a worse defense. Missouri was good this year too, but he was on a worse kind of he's on Bama. Like,
well, here's
surrounded by
this year though, guys. Like, and I'm not saying like pounding the table for him, but I think there's a lot of guys coming out of this Missouri defense in the NFL draft, and it's for a reason. Because defense. When's the last time Missouri's been like, oh my God, Missouri's good in the SEC? They just won the SEC championship. When has that been? And I think it's for a reason. I think a lot of these guys that are in the Missouri defense that are kind of projected in the first, second, third rounds, I think there's a lot of things that they can offer as far as day one, like just having intangible football. Because if you win the SEC in Missouri, man, like, you're doing something right, especially when it's a defensive-led team. So I would not hate Rickettshaw at 29 whatsoever. The thing is, I think it's very dependent on what Brad does in free agency. If we sign like a true, not a true number one, but a guy that's an upgrade from Cam Sutton on the perimeter, I really do not want to corner that early. Or that early in the draft, fair. I should say, for the Lions. I think if the Seahawks get JJ, Brad, get on the phone and trade up for Jackson Powers Johnson, in my opinion, because I think if he slides past, I think Seattle is the perfect fit. If they don't take JJ, that is where Jackson Powers Johnson is going. There's no doubt. They need a guard and a center. He can play both. So if that happens, you get on the phone.
I just want to let you know, the Missouri. I don't know if you knew, Missouri did not win the SEC.
Well, or I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the bowl game. My fault. A big bowl game. And
for a second, I was like,
that's my
they
fault.
were relevant. They were relevant.
No, they were. I think they were like 11.
I don't know why I
said
the SEC.
Yeah, they were.
They were 11-2 in the SEC. Like that's you lost 2 games. I believe. I could double check, but I'm pretty sure they had 2 losses.
Real quick, Elgato, appreciate the $2. He says Brad should trade back and get more value picks. Actually, we've all kind of talked about this. Like, we're just talking about a scenario which Joel Klatt had. So, like, this isn't like our final.
If they did go corner him or him,
yes, that's what the scenario is.
I'm a little leaning towards Kool-Aid though. At the end of the day, just these Bama guys, like they're just a little different. And it's the last year, to be honest, that you're going to be able to go get a Saban Bama guy. Like
here's the turnoff though, and I'll be honest. Like I went through the positives of
turns you off, Jeff.
What turns me off?
What turns you off?
The 4.55 speed. I don't, and that was what he ran. That was what he ran at Alabama. But 4.55 isn't like.
So did Brian Branch though. Like Brian Branch ran a bad 40.
But Brian's not playing like outside corner.
Yeah,
you know what
little,
I mean?
Little different.
I get it, but at the same time, like to your point, if you're playing press man coverage and you have good safeties, it's not as important. If you're playing more zone coverage, having a good feel on the game, like Richard Sherman did not run a good 40 time. There's multiple corners around the league now. To your point, in Aaron Glenn, and this is why they might move off of him. You got to be very quick. So I don't know what like his shuttle time is and stuff like that. And a lot of times you can't measure it off just that. But with corner, 40 time, yes, it's nice to have it, but they're never running 40 yards down the field, one-on-one man coverage. They got a safety over the top. And if they're running 40 yards down the field, most of the time the ball is in the air. That's where to your point with Kool-Aid McKinstry, ball skills help a lot because you can find leverage to get to the ball. So I'm not dying over it. Yes, you like it to be better, but if he's quick, and he like to your point, he's on special teams. He knows how to get in and out of breaks. I mean, he wouldn't be playing corner at Bama if he couldn't. So my thing is just Bama corners are so hit or miss. You're either getting Patrick Surtain or you're getting Derek or D Milliner. Like it's just it's so wishy-washy. That's why, especially the back of the second or back of the first round, it's like I don't hate it, but I don't love it.
Yeah, and that is fair. Like the speed thing, is that a reason why I wouldn't draft him? No, it's just if I had to bring up like a concern, I guess it'd be that. I mean, sometimes in coverage, like I said, he has a good job of shadowing guys. Like he has good footwork, but there is times where he's getting beat. Like I was watching some low lights, like just some times where he did struggle, and it gave me a little bit of Cam Sutton. Like there was times where, like not all the time, but like it happens to every corner. Like it's gonna happen. But where he's lost. Like it's like it reminded me of a kind of a Cam Sutton where like the ball's in the air. And he's tracking it, and the receiver's like 5 yards to his right, wide open, and he's like looking for it. It's but that happened. It's not like it happened all the time. Like I said, 48% completion percentage allowed when targeted. So I like Kool-Aid, but I'm with you. If we had to give our like overall opinion on what they should do, I think we all agreed like trade back or trade up to go get a Jackson Powers Johnson. Like that's a guy that I think we all agree like he's a dude, and he's man. This offensive line, you get a Jackson Powers Johnson. Comes in, he could play. He played guard and center. That's like your Frank Ragnow replacement eventually, and he can come in and play guard immediately. So that's like a value pick, and you get a 5th-year option on it.
I love him. I love that. I
Ricky
don't hate
Drake
that idea.
says disagree. 90% of the good corners run 4.4. Richard Sherman is an outlier.
I mean, you can go back. I mean, if you were drafting Kool-Aid McKinstry at 29th overall, yes, you would like for him to be a number 1. But like at that, he's probably not just going to be some lockdown guy, and you know that going into it. So if he runs a 4.5 instead of a 4.4, shoot me. I'm not crying about it, because at the end of the day, if you're a smart football player, via Brian Branch, who I know it's like, oh, but he's a slot corner. He has to get at the wideouts with elite wideouts, aka Justin Jefferson at points. So if you know how to get yourself in the position to make a play on the ball, a 10th of a 40 time is not killing me. Go ahead and you can keep drafting the guys who run 4.27s, but have no awareness, no ability to make tackles. Go ahead, do it. I'm not crying if a corner runs a 4.5. I'm not, because last time I checked, Cooper DeJean is not running no 4.5 or is not running no 4.2, and he's going to be projected top 15.